Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter-Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet.
Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Comedy on this Saturday, as we will hear from Milton Berle, Harold Peary, is the Great Gildersleeve, and we'll check in an episode of the CBS Radio Workshop, Joe Miller's joke book, Colloquy Four. It is the, what is it they said it is? The Joe Miller joke book. And we'll finish up with Lum and Abner. And we thank you for tuning in on this Saturday. This is the 4th day of November, 308th day of the year, 57 days remaining until we get to 2024. Erie Canal completed on this date in 1825. Governor DeWitt Clinton performing the Wedding of the Waters ceremony in New York Harbor. In Egypt on this date in 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter and his men found the entrance to King Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings. In 1924, on this date, Nellie Tavo Ross of Wyoming, elected as the first female governor in the U.S. In 1952, the government established the National Security Agency. Now, in the November 4th, 1970 edition of Variety magazine, Walter Cronkite admitted he was a liberal, but
we are professional journalists. This is the difference. We are trying to reach an objective state. We're trying to be objective. We have been taught from the day we went to school, when we began to know we wanted to be journalists, integrity, truth, honesty, and this attempt to be objective. We try to present the news as objectively as possible, whether we like it or don't like it.
Cronkite made those remarks almost a year earlier on CBS, defending the network against charges of liberal bias by then Vice President Spiro Agnew. And since that point, it seems that there may have been more of a tilt to the left. We'll see. 1970, the U.S. turned control of the Bien Thu Air Base in the Mekong Delta over to the South Vietnamese. In 1979, on this date, Iranian people, mostly students, invaded the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, took 90 hostages, 53 of whom were American.
Inside the U.S. Embassy compound, looking out now at a floodlit scene as night falls here in Tehran of a huge anti-American demonstration just outside the gate. These grounds are occupied by about 500 students who have taken over the embassy and taken the Americans who had staffed this embassy and made them virtual prisoner. They're being held hostage somewhere on the grounds. We don't know exactly where.
Understandably, President Carter was outraged.
We have done nothing for which any American need apologize. The actions of Iranian leaders and the radicals who invaded our embassy were completely unjustified. They and all others must know that the United States of America will not yield to international terrorism or to blackmail.
The hostages would be held for 444 days and only released as President Reagan was being inaugurated in 1981. On this date in 1980, Ronald Reagan elected to his first term as president.
All I can say to all of you is thank you, and thank you for more than just George Bush and myself. Thank you because if the trend continues, we may very well control one house of the Congress for the first time in a quarter of a century.
President Reagan not only defeated an incumbent Democrat, Jimmy Carter, but also the challenge of a liberal Republican independent, John Anderson. Reagan took 44 states and nearly 51% of the vote. Carter 6 states in the District of Columbia and 41% of the vote, while Anderson took 6.5% of the vote. And as Reagan said, Republicans won control of the U.S. Senate for the first time since 1995. In 1986, Chief Justice Rose Byrd and two colleagues removed by the electorate from the Supreme Court of California for their opposition to capital punishment. In 1999, the first conference that focused exclusively on the subject of the commercial potential of the World Wide Web took place in San Francisco. In 1995, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin assassinated by an extremist Orthodox Israeli. The most powerful solar flare is observed by satellite instrumentation recorded on this date in 2003. And in 2008, the first biracial or African American president was elected.
Out of many, we are one. That while we breathe, we hope. And where we are met with cynicism and doubt, and those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. Thank you. God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America.
Barack Obama became the first person of biracial or African American descent ever to be elected President of the United States, and Joe Biden became the first Roman Catholic ever to serve as Vice President. Passing on this date in history, German composer Felix Mendelssohn, actress Dominique Dunne, author-filmmaker Michael Crichton, and did you ever wonder, Andy Rooney passing away on this date in 2011. Birthdays today include the delightful humorist Will Rogers, actor Gig Young, Walter Cronkite, born on this date, as was actor Art Carney, actor Cameron Mitchell, actor Martin Balsam, from Everybody Loves Raymond, Doris Roberts, and from Night Court, Marky Post. And now Marky Post in heaven, joined by our Bull Shannon, Richard Mall, who passed away last week. Let's see, turning 86 years old today is Hot Lips Houlihan Loretta Swit, the First Lady of the U.S. Laura Bush, 77. Comedian Kathy Griffin, D-list celebrity, 63. From The Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio, 62. From Survivor, Jeff Probst is 62. Sean Diddy Combs is 54, as is actor Matthew McConaughey. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 4th day of November is their birthday. And if this is your birthday,
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
And as I said on this Saturday, a funny Saturday for you. We'll start off by seeing what's going on with Milton Berle and a salute to the football from 76 years ago, November 4th, 1947. That's up next on this Saturday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Instead of going down, the annual rate of polio cases in this country is going up. Instead of growing panicky with fear in the face of such an unwelcome fact, there is a way in which we all can join the Army which is fighting to check this trend and ultimately defeat infantile paralysis. We can contribute to the March of Dimes. Give today so that the 1952 March of Dimes will be the biggest ever and a really potent fighting force against polio.
Milton's Catskill acts were very popular when he took to radio. He finally did get a good radio gig and a good radio show, and that was this Milton Berle Show. You're going to hear an episode of it today from 76 years ago, November 4th, 1947. And he got a great cast behind him. You hear Jack Albertson, you will hear Arnold Stang, you'll hear a number of others that you will well remember. I think Pert Kelton was on this as well. November 4th, 1947, Uncle Milty and a salute to football.
Make no mistake. Of all leading cigarettes, one and only one is recognized by eminent nose and throat specialists as definitely less irritating. That one cigarette is Philip Morris. Johnny presents the Milton Berle Show. Here comes Johnny, ladies and gentlemen, to remind you, if every smoker knew what Philip Morris smokers know, they'd all change to Philip Morris. Yes, they'd all. From Radio City in New York, here is the Milton Berle Show, with Bert Telton, Jack Albertson, Mary Shipp, Billy Sands, Johnny Gibson, Al Kelly, our singing star, Dick Barney, the music of Ray Block and his orchestra, and yours truly, Frank Gallup. Ladies and gentlemen.
Smart writing.
This is the peak of the football season. In Saluting Football tonight, we bring you a comedian who has the perfect football head. It's full of air, and it comes to a point. And here he is, Milton Berle.
Thank you, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Gallup, did you say that I have a head like a football? Mr. Gallup, you've irked me. You've definitely irked me, and if there's one thing I can't stand, it's an irk. Saying my head comes to a point. I can't help it. My mother was scared by your nose. How about that, Waxy?
Berle, if you're quite through with this vulgar display of barnyard comedy...
Well, you started it. You started it, Mr. Gallup. Gee willikers. When you said that my head was like a football, you hurt me. You cut me. You really cut me. I have an incision. And lucky for you, oysters are incision. Oysters are incision. Oh, Abbott, if Costello ever leaves you, here I am. See, Mr. Gallup, that's how I got my reputation. I can take a program that starts out like it's dying, and with 3 fast jokes, bury it. So don't laugh, Mr. Gallup, because if I had said that you had a head like a football, what would you have said?
What a blow for Princess Elizabeth.
Mr. Gallup, please. Dear Mr. Gallup, egg-laying Mr. Gallup, for 3 weeks now you've told the same joke. Why do you repeat every week? What have you been living on, radishes? You never... What have you been living on, radishes? Are you mad because I won't let you sleep? You never... Mr. Gallup, you never hear me repeat my jokes, do you?
No, only Bob Hopes. My word, that was a gay one, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. That was jazzy. Mr. Gallup, look at me. Will you do me a favor?
Yes.
Just for tonight, lay off the jokes. Won't you? Won't you? Because at this very moment, you don't know this, but a group of executives are sitting around a conference table discussing my option.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a fighting chance, won't you?
I'm sorry, Berle. You know, I've become quite fond of you.
You have?
Yes. When first I came on this program, I expected you to be a vulgar, moronic, loudmouth boor.
And I'm not?
You are, but I got used to you.
You're so titanic. That's so clever, Mr. Gallup. Don't stop. Can't you think of any other insulting words to describe me? Please, no coaching from the audience. Everybody's always ready to insult me. I mean it, honest. I'm a nice guy. I'm kind to animals. I wear an Adam's hat. My teeth have that oxidol sparkle. I wear Adler elevator shoes. Now, I'm so much taller than she, I keep tripping over it. It's terrible.
Oh, come. Don't feel that way, Milton.
Well, Milton? Did you call me Milton? Mr. Gallup, you call me Milton?
I know.
Gee, can I call you Frank?
No.
I just asked. I thought maybe we could be friends.
Don't press your luck.
No, Mr. Gallup, sir.
Now get on with your program.
Yes, Mr. Gallup, sir.
Go ahead. Be funny.
Drop dead, Mr. Gallup.
What was that?
I said, let's get ahead, Mr. Gallup. And we certainly will as we salute the sport of the hour, King Football. Football, thrilling sport for millions. Football, a game you spend 4 years playing for the old alma mater just so you can get a big letter to put where your ribs used to be. Yes, it's football. Ladies and gentlemen, if many of you find modern football getting too complicated, it will all be clearly explained to you by none other than that celebrated football coach, Clarence Biff Finster. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Finster.
Thank you.
Coach, would you answer some of the football questions written in by our listeners?
Why, I would be quite terminated to give you the very best of my advice for Troy, but they'll receivers. But keep them short.
Yes, I'll keep them short. Yes, sir. Here is a question from a gentleman in Scranton. He asks, what's the difference between the T formation and the double wingback?
That's simple.
It is?
Yeah. You see, in the T formation, if you are the quarterback, you get the ball and you give it over to the guys who have the zone flamer. Now, he doesn't know that you're going to reverse on the end because that's the way the lateral buck would have to get backwards for him, and you're definitely left with the tackle of your spearman. But don't let your end get out too far.
All right. A lady in Des Moines writes, has anyone ever tried to fix college games?
What a coincidence. You know, last year a gambler came up to me and said, Coach Finster, I would like to brace a Foreman Clay McClay for toil. He would like to brace a Cole McClay for toil. Who wouldn't? Well, I said to him, how dare you draze my grill, May? What do I look like, a train? And would you believe it?
What?
Today, that man is a millionaire.
Coach, look, before you leave, would you give your famous pep talk that you give your players between the halves?
Gladly.
All right.
I say, men, I want you to go out there and tell Leroy with your finest of praise for telling me. Give them the old Snoovenbleis down. Remember, every cloud has a silver gladney for. Stand on your own two lives and blind. I can only tell you in the words of that great Gaelic Sir Henry Maddlesboy, who said, quote, keep up the spell, hit that mace pallet, grove the plant, unquote. Now, men, put on your gatkes, get into your spell, listen to that snivelers, and get out there and die for dear old Malman Clyde.
Thank you, Coach Finster. Thank you. Coach Finster. Mr. Gallup, on those crisp fall days when we hear the cheers of football fans, it brings back all of us memories of those golden college days. When you walked across the campus with that one and only girl as you sang down the old Ox Road. You will never find out where it is by looking at maps. With a little investigation, you'll discover perhaps on the... Don't play with just your elbows, will you, please? The old Ox Road. Precious college memories of Cynthia. Will I ever forget those walks down the old Ox Road with Cynthia? How proud I was of her. She was the biggest ox on the road. Cynthia, can anything ever erase those 14 wonderful years we spent in college? Oh, Cynthia. She was in college so long, ivy kept growing up her legs. Haunting memories of that last senior prom. When I took Cynthia home after the dance, her head was on my shoulder. Someone else carried her feet. Beautiful, captivating Cynthia. Yes, she dressed like the other co-eds. That sloppy Joe sweater, those sloppy white shoes, those sloppy bobby socks. But somehow on Cynthia they looked different. Sloppier. Remember the night that we quarreled, Cynthia? You took off my fraternity pin and you gave it back to me. Oh, what a mistake. You shouldn't have taken off that pin. That's what held up your overalls. That's what held up... Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. But it's the little things I remember about Cynthia. Her tinkling little laugh that night before the big game when they threw her on the bonfire. Yes, she was my old flame. But she made an ash of herself. So until they send her back to me, I'll travel alone down the old Ox Road.
Lee, Buffalo, New York, Denver, Colorado, Portland, Oregon. Yes, from all over the country there's news, big news. Listen.
From section after section, eminent nose and throat specialists report that the cigarette they suggest in cases of irritation due to smoking is Philip Morris.
Yes, these top-ranking nose and throat specialists actually suggest Philip Morris because they know Philip Morris is the one, the only leading cigarette proved definitely less irritating.
Remember, the cigarette that gives you the least irritation is the cigarette that gives you the most enjoyment. After all, it's pleasure, deep, rich pleasure, that counts in smoking. And the full measure of smoking pleasure is yours to enjoy day in, day out in Philip Morris. That's why we say, if every smoker knew what Philip Morris smokers know, they'd all change to Philip Morris, America's finest cigarette.
Fine. That's short music, huh? You think that's short? Wait till after December 31st. That was the Washington and Lee Swing, played by Ray Block and the Philip Morris Orchestra. And Ray, incidentally, what you played of it was really swell. Nothing can describe the way I feel about your playing. And do you know why? Because that's the way I feel about your playing. Nothing. I'm only kidding, Ray. You know what I really think about you? Nothing. You know what I think about that joke? And now... And now, as we continue our salute to football, we present...
Football Forum tonight. Football Forum tonight. The question, will football scrimmage ever take the place of shopping in Gimbel's basement?
Nothing. And now, let us... What a blow to Prudential. Let us have questions. Let us have questions from the audience now. Let's start the forum, please. Let us start with this elderly gentleman here gumming an oatmeal cookie. Yes, sir?
Mr. Berle, I can use a man with your personality and your strength. I'd like you to be the leader of my team.
You want me to be the leader? You have a football team?
No, I have a dog sled team.
Again, double nothing. Thank you. Thank you, Admiral Byrd. Let us continue. All right, this young man here wearing the snakeskin bib. Young man, what is your name?
My name is Louis the 14th.
Louis the 14th?
Don't confuse me with that French king. No. He's dead. I'm alive.
Don't bet on it. Your name is Louis the 14th?
Yeah, we got 14 Louis in our family. I'm the 14th.
But you mean everybody in your family is named Louis?
Don't be ridiculous. My mother couldn't be a Louis. She's a woman.
That's right. What is your mother's name?
Irving.
All right, Seymour. You have a question. You have a question that has to do with football.
No, I hate football. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, you see,
football, I can't think of a duller subject unless maybe it's talking about you.
Now, look...
I'll talk about anything. Horses, bubblegum, Jack Eichen, but I won't talk about football.
All right, but we're trying...
Why don't you talk about baseball? You ashamed of our national pastime?
No, but the season is
Where
over.
can you crown a guy with a pop bottle, yell dirty names at the umpire? Baseball.
All right.
Where else can you stuff yourself with hot dogs and peanuts and double up in a doubleheader? Baseball.
Please.
And go take a flying tackle for yourself.
Please. Let us get on to the ladies. All right, this lady in the aisle, burning leaves. What is your name, young lady?
Tallulah Feeney. I'm a homemaker.
I see. And you have a question that has to do with football?
Yeah, how can I stop my husband from playing football? He's getting himself murdered, the stoop.
Your husband gets hurt when he plays?
Mauled. He even got a trick knee.
He has a trick knee?
It comes off.
I understand.
One day they brung him home. There was a big bone sticking out of the side of his head.
Oh, that's terrible.
What's terrible? It was only his nose.
His nose?
For a week he was smelling everything sideways.
Gee, it must have been awful with his nose to one side.
Are you kidding? It was the first time I was able to kiss him without getting stabbed.
I see what you mean. And what do you think of him? Is he a good football player?
He's a great kicker. Last week he kicked a football so far they couldn't find it.
They couldn't find the ball?
They couldn't find his toe.
Oh, that's dreadful.
He comes home from them games all banged up with lumps all over his body.
Lumps all over his body?
It's like sleeping next to a sack of doorknobs.
Has your husband ever starred in a game?
Last week he was a big sensation. The coach said, Feeney, put on your helmet and run out in the field.
He put on his helmet and was a big sensation?
Yeah, that's all he wore.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Feeney. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No forum on football would be complete without a representative of the toughest and most rugged of all leagues, professional football. Thus, it is a privilege to present at this time one of the truly great gridiron stars of the pro football ranks. That smashing, tearing, stampeding Goliath, Bronco Featherfield. Mr. Featherfield.
Thank you, Mr. Berle. Thank you for giving me this golden opportunity for explaining the trials and tribulations of my glorious but greatly misunderstood profession.
But Bronco, what professional football team do you play with? The Chicago Bears, the Los Angeles Rams, or the Philadelphia Eagles?
The Pitkin Polecats.
The Pitkin Polecats?
Oh, we're a very strong team.
I can imagine, yes.
With the wind behind us, we can overpower anybody.
I believe it, Bronco. It must take great courage to play professional football.
Doesn't it, though, Mr. Berle? Last Sunday, I caught a kickoff, and there, pounding down the field at me, were 11 huge men. I had to call on my manhood.
What happened?
No answer.
Mr. Featherfield, why did you get into professional football?
My wife likes me to be near her.
Oh, I see. Your wife is a great fan?
She's the fullback.
Wait, but your wife is a fullback?
In every sense of the word.
I see what you mean. Both of you in football, your home life must be congenial.
Yes, my wife is always practicing. All day long, she tackled the dummy.
Yes?
Then I get up and she tackles me again.
Well, tell us something of your own exploits, Bronco.
In the first game of the season, I zigged, zagged, and snake-hipped my way 98 yards through the entire opposing team.
A 98-yard run? Why, that's wonderful.
Yes. If I'd have had the ball, it would have been a touchdown.
Wait a minute, you didn't have the ball?
Well, Mr. Berle, when you run 98 yards, you can't think of everything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Featherfield. Now here's our young singing star, Dick Barney, to sing at Mimi.
On the Rue de la Paix, there was once a cabaret, and Mimi. As the night went along, there was suddenly a song, and Mimi. All the world seemed to say that they loved the cabaret and Mimi. But I knew that when she'd see me, Mimi sang for me along. Came at a patch with a passion for dancing with the one that I adored. Taught her the dance and its fashion, and for me she's singing no more. On the Rue de la Paix, there was once a cabaret and Mimi. Now I'm sitting sad and dreaming, just for Mimi and her song. Now I'm sitting sad and dreaming, just for Mimi and her song.
Magnifico. It translated means, gee, kid, you sing like a boy. You know Mr. Gallup?
I know him well.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's clever. That's so cute.
Come, Burl. We laid an egg. Let's not stand around cackling over it.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Some yoke. Mr. G, All this talk about football tonight reminds me of the Army Notre Dame game that I saw last year. Did I ever tell you about it?
No, you never did.
What? Eh?
You never did.
Well, last year, on this Saturday of the Army and Notre Dame game, my wife and I were down at the stadium very early.
Ticket, hold your own ticket.
Milton, imagine standing in line here a whole hour before the game.
I'm just making sure, darling, that I don't miss anything. It took me a year to get these Notre Dame tickets. I had to write to Pat O'Brien personally. Boy, watch those fighting Irish murder the Army.
I'm for the Army. I think it's sweet of them to have that girl on the team, Blanche Davis.
That's Blanchard and Davis. Oh, we're here at the gate. Well, look at that line behind us. I'm glad we got here.
Tickets.
Oh, yes, the tickets. Quick. Well, darling, where are the tickets?
I have them here in my purse.
Well, quick, give me the purse.
Milton, you're spilling it. Look out.
You really came loaded, didn't you, dear? Let's pick it up.
Come on, step out of line, eh?
Oh, wait, young man. It'll just take a second. Somewhere in this mess of the tickets. Let's see. Here's the hubcap of an Essex. A framed picture of Harry Horlick and his A&P gypsies. A pound of putty. Where's those tickets? Oh, no. The game is starting. Oh, gee, the game is starting.
That was Blanchard through the line for 6 yards, brought down by Wishnutchetnikov Oblomovitz of the Irish.
Oh, we missed the kickoff. Usher, how much farther up? My ears just popped.
Here are your seats, sir. Number 1 and 2, row double Z.
Wait, there's people sitting in our seats.
I'll handle this. Hey, you, let me see your tickets.
Tickets. Go away. I don't want no tickets. Scram. Come on, you Dodgers!
Dodgers? This always happens to me. Usher, will you mop him up?
Look, mister, you're in the wrong seats.
Shh! I sneaked in. What a game. Hooray for Lorraine and Leo!
Let me handle this. Listen, you souse. Get out of those seats before I pour you out.
Okay. See? When you ask me like a gentleman, I'm willing to oblige. You want a drink?
No.
What's the matter? You sick? Let's go, Mabel.
Coming, Farnsworth.
Oh, brother. There's one at every game. Sit down, dear. Now for some football.
That's the end of the first quarter.
Gee, that was fast. See, we missed the whole quarter.
Milton, the Army boys look so small. Why don't they put in that big, tough player standing on the sidelines?
Put on your glasses. That's the Army mule. Now relax. Look, they're starting again.
There's a Notre Dame substitution. Cherkanjolov Volpanovich going in for Gulda Clyde Abulanovsky.
Come on, you Irish. Rah!
Excuse me, sir.
Rah!
May I see your tickets?
Come on, my tickets. I just sat down. See, row double Z.
Sorry, you're in row double Z, but on the other side of the stadium.
Now, listen.
Now, Milton, don't start anything.
All right, come on, let's hurry.
That was Davis around in for 3 yards, brought down by Sinkalos Otsabutsatelli of the Irish.
Usher.
This way, sir. Just one more row.
One more row. I won't make it. Watch out, dear. Don't trip over my tongue. Usher, where are our seats?
Right here, sir.
Look, someone's sitting in them.
I'll get them out. Hey, those are our seats.
Oh, it's you again, huh? What's the matter around here? Shoo, go away. Come on, cookie liver. Jello.
Now, look, Buster. Get out of our seats.
Don't shove me. No, keep your hands off. Have a drink?
No.
Poor man. Let's go. Come on, Mabel.
Coming, Farnsworth.
Gee, I could run my car all winter on his breath. Sit down, dear. Come on, you Irish.
Time out for Notre Dame.
When will I see something?
Here are some substitutions. O'Sullivan going in for Notre Dame.
O'Sullivan, it's about time.
Correction, please. O'Sullivan going in for Army. Remo Bolanini Petrilovich going in for Notre Dame.
It figured. Shh, something's going to happen.
Milton, what was that?
That was the end of the first half.
Milton, I'm hungry. Will you run down and get me?
I'm hungry. I'm not moving from this seat. During the half, the Army has its famous parade of the cadets, the most thrilling sight in the world. Look, darling, here they come. Hooray!
Excuse me, sir.
Hooray!
May I see your ticket?
My ticket. I just sat down. Feel it. The seat is still cold. See? Row double Z.
You're in row double Z, but in the lower stand.
Oh, no. Here we go again. Geronimo!
Of Army is brought down by O'Houlihan, also of Army.
Just a few more rows, sir.
Few more rows? Few more rows?
Are you all right, Milton?
Yes, dear. You can put me down now. Where's our seats?
Right here, sir.
Milton, someone's in them.
Now, look, you...
What's the matter? You follow me around. Come on, Babe Didrikson. Happy New Year.
Get out of my seats. Now go away.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. You want a drink?
Yes, I do. I need one.
Sorry, I'm all out. Let's go, Mabel.
Coming, Farnsworth.
Oh, now, at last, the game. Come on, anything.
Milton, someone fired a gun.
Yes, they fired a gun. The game is over. It's over. The game is over.
Well, let's go home.
Home? No. It took us 2 hours to get these seats. Now, let's sit here and rest for a while. Oh.
May I see your tickets, please?
See my What's on them tickets, anyway? A picture of Jane Russell?
Sorry, sir, a mistake.
Yeah, there's one mistake too many. I'm getting my money back. I want to see the manager. Take me to the manager. Take me to the manager.
Right in here, sir. This is the manager's office.
No one's shoving me around.
Mr. Bibble, this gentleman to see you.
Oh, he wants to see me? What's the matter now?
Oh, no.
Let's go, Mabel.
Coming, Farnsworth.
Thank you, folks. I'll be back just as soon as I can get out of this crew haircut. In the meantime...
Remember this. You're twice as sure of twice the pleasure when you smoke Philip Morris. And here's why.
First, you enjoy the pleasure of smoking the world's finest premium tobaccos, mellow and mild and superbly blended. And second, you enjoy the extra pleasure of smoking the one, the only leading cigarette recognized by eminent nose and throat specialists as definitely less irritating.
Yes, you're twice as sure of twice the pleasure when you smoke Philip Morris. So, next time you call for cigarettes, call for Philip Morris. Made in America, by Americans, to please American tastes.
Thank you very much. We're a little late. May I say good night? This is your girlfriend Milton saying au revoir. Good night.
This is Johnny again, returning now to the thousands of store windows and counters all over America. Look for me. I'll be waiting for you. Come in and call for Philip Morris.
Yes, if every smoker knew what Philip Morris smokers know, they'd all change to Philip Morris, America's finest cigarette.
Call for Philip Morris.
And there you have it. 76 years ago, November 4th, 1947, the Milton Berle Show. We'll head to Summerfield and see what's going on with the water commissioner with the Great Gildersleeve. That's up next on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Alert Americans will heed history's lessons. Throughout history, surprise has had a leading role in military disasters. Today, an enemy capable of surprise air attack could leave chaos in his wake. That's why you should be in the Civilian Ground Observer Corps, volunteering a few hours a week to guard our skies. Be a ground observer. Contact your local civilian defense office.
Let's check in and see what's going on in the life of the water commissioner of Summerfield. That would be, of course, Harold, the Great Gildersleeve, Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve, Harold Peary as Gildersleeve, 78 years ago, November 4th, 1945. As Leroy is having study problems.
The Kraft Foods Company presents The Great Gildersleeve. It's The Great Gildersleeve, starring Harold Peary, brought to you by the Kraft Foods Company, makers of Parquet margarine and a complete line of famous quality food products. Now let's join The Great Gildersleeve. But first, let's decide which Gildersleeve we want to join. For Gildersleeve is a man of many sides. Shall it be Gildersleeve, the man of action? Or Gildersleeve, the guardian and protector of his niece and nephew?
Leroy, stick in your shirt tail.
Or Gildersleeve, the great lover? No, let us drop in on still another Gildersleeve. The Gildersleeve the world knows as Summerfield's water commissioner, the big shot in his private office in the city hall. Gildersleeve, the executive.
Wonder what time it is. 5:15? Must be later than that. Oh, Bessie! Bessie! That Bessie, I'm going to have to let her go. Bessie!
Did you call me, Mr. Gildersleeve?
That I did, Bessie. What time is it by the clock out there?
By the clock? 5:15.
Oh, well, all right. Certainly feels later.
Have you taken care of these things, Mr. Gildersleeve? I'd like to clear up your desk a little.
Yes, it's a mess. How do you expect me to get any work done, Bessie, when you leave papers all over my desk?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gildersleeve. You told me to leave all those folders on annual rainfall so you could use them in your budget report.
Oh, rainfall folders. Oh, that's what these are. But what's all this pile here?
Oh, those are the monthly financial reports for 1945. You asked for them last week.
I wonder what for.
Yes, sir, I wondered myself.
Well, take them away till I think of it.
Yes, sir.
What's all this stuff over here?
Oh, that's your immediate file, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Immediate? Getting a little behind on that, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Well, no time like the present, Bessie. Let's just wade through this pile and clean it up.
Now?
Yes, now. Put that other stuff in the files and then bring your book.
Yes, sir.
Let's see here. State Association of Water Commissioners. Dear Mr. Gildersleeve, we're making a survey to determine the average power input of municipal pumps in this state. If you could get these figures from your engineer sometime in the next few days and forward them to us promptly, we'll be greatly obliged. Yours truly. Bessie, oh, you're here. Call Charlie Anderson out at the reservoir, please.
Yes, sir.
Take this, Bessie, while you're waiting. State Association of Water Commissioners, dear sirs, in reply to yours of August 10th.
Hello, Mr. Gildersleeve calling.
Thank you, Bessie. Hello, Charlie. How's it going? Well, never mind how it's going. I want you to give me some figures. What's the power input on our pump out there? No, Charlie, that's no attitude. You mean you don't know? Then figure it out and call me back. It's not a waste of time. It's very important. And if you... Hello. Oh, hello. He hung up. Why, George, if I knew where to find another engineer. But I don't. What have you got there, Bessie?
In reply to yours of August 10th.
August 10th. Well, the survey must be over by now. Throw that away, Bessie. We'll tackle something else.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. What's this one? Oh, yeah. Mrs. Joel Todbinder. I can't believe I used the amount of water for which you have billed me during the month of September. Kindly explain.
Oh, there's 4 or 5 letters like that.
There are? These people think we do. Make up meter readings out of our heads? Take this. Dear Mrs. Todbinder. Several of these, you say, Bessie?
Yes, sir.
Then we ought to have a form answer for it. I'll make up a form letter, and you can send it to all these people.
Yes, sir.
But I'll do it tomorrow. Anything else that's pressing?
Well, the whole file requires immediate answers, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Well, we made a good start on it, Bessie. I doubt if we could finish it tonight anyway. Suppose we get at it bright and early tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
What time is it now, Bessie?
Well, my watch says 5:15.
Then your watch is slow. It's 5:15, 10 or 15 minutes ago. Time to close up, Bessie.
If you say so, Mr. Gildersleeve.
I do say so. But bright and early tomorrow, Bessie. Bright and early tomorrow.
Trouble I've been, nobody knows my side.
Hiya, Bertie.
You can't have nothing to eat now, Leroy. It's too close to supper.
Okay.
I told you time and time again, if you want to eat, you come to me right after school, and I'll fix you something. You can't come in here just before supper and fill up your stomach.
I'm not even hungry.
Well, you better be hungry when you sit down at the table. I got us a roast of beef tonight with our brand new November points.
Yeah?
What's the matter with you, Leroy? Don't you feel good?
Yeah, I feel okay. I got another bad report card today.
Oh, that's what's preying on your mind. I thought you'd been mighty quiet this afternoon.
I'm afraid Uncle hit the roof.
Oh, he won't hurt you.
He sure was mad last time. I'm scared to show it to him.
Make a clean breast of it, Leroy. That's the only way. Just say I done it and I'm sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's the way I do every time I bust a cup.
You do?
Yes, sir. Everything open and above board. Handle it that way, nobody ever gets anything on Birdie.
Well, I tried hiding it last time.
What happened?
I might try your system this time. What could I lose?
That's probably your uncle now, Leroy.
Yeah.
Go on, son. Get it over with. The sooner you show it to him, the sooner it's all over.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Go on. He won't hurt you.
Well, I'll try it. Hi, I'm glad to see you home so early.
It's not particularly early, Leroy.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're home anyway. Isn't it nice that Unc's home, Marge? What?
Well, thank you, my dear.
Never mind her. The reason I'm glad you're home is there's something I want to talk to you about, Unc.
All right, Leroy, just as soon as I wash my hands.
Okay. Gee, it sure gets dark early these days, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Probably on account of daylight saving, huh?
I suppose so.
I wish they'd go back to the old way. It's better for people's eyes, don't you think so?
Possibly.
If they put back daylight saving...
Leroy, it will not be necessary for you to supervise my washing.
Well, I don't intend to supervise it.
Stay out. Now, Leroy.
Oh, did you have a nice wash?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Here's tonight's paper, Unc. Haven't even opened it.
Well, a treat. Thank you very much. Something you wanted to ask me, was there, my boy?
Well, I got my report card today, and it's pretty bad.
Oh, let me see it.
I got bad marks and everything. I don't know how to explain it. I work hard. I do all the stuff. I don't know. I must be dumb or something.
Come here, Leroy. Let me see the card.
Yes, sir?
Oh, Leroy.
Isn't it terrible, Unc? I feel pretty bad about it.
Huh?
I got my report card today, and I did swell and everything.
Shut up, will you?
There must be some explanation for this, Leroy.
It's just my fault, Unc, that's all. I'm not blaming anybody but myself.
That's no explanation.
I never had any trouble when I was in the B7. All that stuff is easy.
Marjorie, I think you better leave this to me.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is anybody that tries can learn that stuff in their sleep.
In his sleep, and I will handle this, please. Leroy, this is, well, it's very serious.
I know it, Unc. I sure hope I can do better next month.
Yes. Well, I'm sure that
I
you...
just have to work harder than ever, that's all.
Are you kidding?
Now, Marjorie, let's not assume Leroy is insincere. I believe your brother is ready to turn over a new leaf. I think we should help him.
That's right.
If you buckle down and work hard, my boy, you can show improvement. You're not stupid.
I should say not. Only all the stuff is so hard. It's over my head.
It's not really, my boy. Not if you understand it. Perhaps I can explain some of it to you.
Could you, Unc?
Help you every night of the week if you want.
Gee, that'd be super, because I really got a load. Monday night I have to do English, and Tuesday night is my arithmetic night, and Wednesday is history.
Don't tell me any more, Leroy. You'll talk me out of it. This looks like one of my bad weeks.
The Great Gildersleeve will be back in just a moment. The other day, while I was waiting my turn at the grocery store refrigerator, I saw a lady trying to decide which spread to buy. Naturally, since my job is to sell parquet, I thought I'd give it a little boost. So I said, Have you ever tried parquet margarine?
Well, I've heard of it often. Is it really as good as people say?
Yes, ma'am. I know lots of people think parquet's fine, fresh flavor is the best they've ever tried.
Well, that's what I'm looking for. A spread for bread and toast that really tastes good.
And I know that you're also interested in good nutrition. Now, on the package here, you'll notice that parquet is made from rich in energy vegetable oils from the farm, and that it's fortified with important vitamin A. And you can plainly see from the price tag that parquet margarine is only about half the price of costly spreads. Now, I'm just repeating to you folks what I told the lady, and I'm happy to say that I helped make a sale. So next time you do your shopping, I hope you decide to buy delicious, economical parquet, the spread preferred by millions because it tastes so good. That's Parkay, parquet margarine, made by Kraft. Now let's get back to our story and see how Gildersleeve has been getting along with the education of his nephew. To tell the truth, he hasn't really got around to it. Monday night.
Well, Monday, something came up.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, I ran into a friend.
Wednesday night.
Well, Wednesday was something else.
Now it's Thursday, and even Leroy is getting uneasy.
Look, Unc, let's face it. I've got to write a composition about the Missouri Compromise, and I've got to have it in tomorrow.
Confound it, Leroy. Haven't you done that yet?
No, and that's not all. I've got about 9 million problems in arithmetic and a map to draw and a whole lot of spelling.
Why do you let it pile up this way? Why do you keep putting it off?
I was waiting for you to help me like you promised.
Excuses. All I get is excuses.
You did say you'd help him, Uncle Mort. Thanks, Marge.
When I need to be reminded of my promises, my dear, I'll ask for it.
Well, holler. I'll be up in my room.
That girl. There's such a thing as being too smart. I wish she'd get a low report card just once. Well, Leroy, come on. Let's see what seems to be the trouble here. What's your most difficult subject?
History.
What don't you understand about it?
I don't get it, that's all. I can't learn it.
Never say can't, my boy.
Well, I can.
Nonsense. History can be a very interesting subject if you approach it properly.
Well, how do you approach it?
By the simple process of learning it. Just learn it, that's all.
But I can't.
Don't keep saying that. Of course you can learn it. I learned it, you can learn it. Now, for instance, you've got to write a composition about the Louisiana Purchase. Very well.
The Missouri Compromise.
All right, the Missouri Compromise. It's the same thing.
Are you kidding?
Well, that is, I mean they're related. Everything in history is related, my boy. That's the important thing in history, to learn the relation of things. Now, for example, Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. Remember that, Leroy. That's mighty important. But it was Rogers and Clark who discovered the Northwest Territory.
I don't get the relation.
Well, you're a little young, I guess. Yeah, let's get down to this composition of yours now. What was it to be?
The Missouri Compromise.
Oh, yes, that.
What was the Missouri Compromise, Unc?
Well, it took place in Missouri, my boy.
Natch, but what was it?
It took place some years ago, as I remember. I forget the exact date.
I know the date, 1820. Well, what was it?
The Missouri Compromise? Well, it was a sort of a compromise. That is to say, it was, well, just what it says, the Missouri Compromise. Everybody knows what the Missouri Compromise was.
Unc, will you tell me one thing?
What?
What good is history anyway?
Well, history's a lot of good. If you learn it now, it'll help you in later life.
How?
Well, that depends. It depends on what you do in later life, yes. Have you given any thought to that, my boy? What do you plan to be when you grow up?
How should I know?
Confounded Leroy. You see, that's what's the matter with you. You have no purpose, no sense of responsibility, no plan in life. You just live from day to day.
But, Unc, I'm just a little kid.
If you're old enough to stay up till 9:30 at night, you're old enough to be responsible. You've got to organize yourself, my boy. You've got to start making sense.
Doorbell, I'll get it.
There you go. Right while I'm trying to talk to you.
Hi, Judge, come in.
Thank you, Leroy. Is your uncle planning to go to the meeting, do you know?
I don't know, but he's right in here if you want to talk to him.
Oh, hello, Horace.
Evening, Gildy. Going to school board meeting?
I can't. I promised to help Leroy with his homework tonight.
Well, I'm sure Leroy won't mind.
I never break a promise to a child, Judge. That's something I make a point of.
Ha!
Leroy, go to your room.
I didn't mean anything, Unc.
You can't work down here anyway with people dropping in all the time.
Pardon me.
Oh, no offense, Judge. Stick around. Leroy, you go upstairs and get started on that composition. I'll come up later and see how you're doing.
But you still haven't told me about the Missouri Compromise.
Why should I? It's all in the encyclopedia. Go look it up. That's what education is for, my boy, to teach you to look things up. That's what the encyclopedia is for, to look things up in.
I still don't see what the Missouri...
Don't bother me anymore with the Missouri Compromise. Ye gods, go upstairs and get to work.
Okay. I wonder I can
That boy. I don't know what I'm going to do about him, Horace. No power of concentration. Puts everything off. Completely disorganized.
Oh, I don't know.
I was talking to him just now. Absolutely no sense of responsibility. No thought for the future. I asked him what he wanted to be when he grows up. He doesn't know. The boy has no life plan.
What's your life plan, Gildy? Huh? I say, what's your life plan?
What do you mean?
Well, what thought have you given to the future? Are you going to be a small-town water commissioner all your life?
The office of water commissioner, Horace, is not one to be sneezed at.
Big frog in a little puddle. That's all you are, Gildy.
I resent that.
I don't know where you get off to talk about Leroy. You're not even a very good water commissioner.
Horace.
Well, be honest with yourself, Gildy. Are you? You aren't there half the time. You shilly-shally, you put things off. There's an old saying, you know, Gildy, procrastination is the thief of time.
I know.
Well, it's true. You've been in that office 3 years now. What have you done? And what did you do before that? And what are you going to do in the future?
I don't know, Horace. I just don't know.
I'm saying this is your friend, Throckmorton.
You are my friend, Horace, and I hope I'm yours.
I've always so considered you. But what you've got to realize, old friend, I'm only saying this for your own good.
I know that.
What you've got to realize is you only got into that office on a political fluke. And you could be bounced out tomorrow.
Horace, you haven't heard anything.
No. But if they ever got on to you, if anybody ever found out how little you really know about it, why, you don't know anything about the water department. You're just a glad-hander. That's all, just a small-town politician. You don't know beans about hydraulics or anything else. And you've never taken the trouble to learn. You've just been so doggone lazy.
Horace, don't!
Well, it's true. All these things you accuse Leroy of, he's just a chip off the old block.
You're right. I've been a bad uncle.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as that.
I have. I've set him a bad example.
Oh, it isn't that so much, Gildy. But what provisions have you made for the future? Suppose you were to get the can tied to you.
No.
Have you made any plans? Have you saved up any money? I don't even need to ask.
I'm no good.
I'm not worrying about you. You'd get along somehow. But what about Marjorie and Leroy? Those two sweet children.
I'm no good, Horace. I'm just no good. Have nothing to do with me.
No, old friend, that's not the way to take it.
I'm a failure, a big, fat failure.
Well, be that as it may, and I'm not altogether denying it, the thing to do is not to give in to it.
What do you mean? Advise me, Horace.
Well, you want to be a success in life? You want to be a good water commissioner? Make yourself one.
But how?
Work, study, improve yourself. Go to bed early, get up early.
I will. I'll go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Study engineering. Learn hydraulics.
But how? I'm no chicken, you know.
Why, any good correspondence school must have a course in hydraulics. Write to them.
I'll do it. I'll write to them this very night, Horace. Oh, Judge, I don't know what to say to you, but thanks, old friend. Thanks a million.
Anything in here about the Missouri Compromise? I looked into history and all it says...
Don't bother me with your problems now, my boy. I have problems of my own.
Well, for cat's sake.
Bertie, Marjorie, where's last Sunday's paper?
Last Sunday's paper, you say, Mr. Gildersleeve?
Yes. Why is it the Sunday paper always has to be thrown out before I can get a chance to read it?
This is Thursday, Uncle Morris.
I never throw out nothing, Mr. Gildersleeve. I put all the papers in the wood closet there, just as always.
First I ever heard of it. Well, never mind, Bertie. I'll... Hey, here it is in the wood closet.
You can me talking. If you're looking for the funnies by any chance, they might just possibly be up in my room.
No, I'm looking for the book section. Here. I saw it in here. I know I saw it in here. Ah, the Alexander Hamilton Institute. Now, clear out, everybody, please. I've got to write a letter. Marjorie, get that junk off the desk, will you?
Come along, Leroy.
I never heard such a fuss about writing a letter.
Who's he writing to? President Truman?
No, Alexander Hamilton.
Oh, now who's that? The minute I sit down, I got to get up and answer the, well, hello, Leela. Come in.
Thank you, Throckmorton. I just dropped over to see if there was any gentleman who'd care to invite a lady to the movies.
Gee, I'd like to, Leela.
They're showing Romance in the Rain.
Oh, well, I'd love to go, Leela. The only thing is, in the first place, I've already seen the picture.
Oh, did you see it alone? Or...
No, I saw it with somebody.
Oh. How did you like the picture, Throckmorton?
Well, to tell the truth, I thought it was a little shallow, Leela.
Oh, you went with Miss Goodwin. Well, you wouldn't mind seeing it again, I'm sure. I always think what you get out of a picture depends so much on who you see it with, don't you?
You bet. I'd love to go, Leela, but you see, I've got to write this letter, and I promised myself I'd get it off this evening.
Oh, an old letter.
Well, it's kind of important to me. You see, it's kind of a test, Leela. Of myself, I mean.
Hmm?
I promised myself that for once I'd do something and stick to it.
You know, Throckmorton, I don't think you like me anymore.
Oh, but I do, Leela. Really, but you just don't understand.
Well, not if I practically throw myself at you and you tell me you have to stay home and write a letter to somebody else.
But, Leela, I'd like to, but... Leela, tell me something.
Yes?
Do you think I'm a failure?
Why, certainly not.
Do you think I'm nothing but a glad-hander and a small-time politician?
Gracious, who could ever think a thing like that?
Well, that's all I want to know. Let's go to the movies.
Good evening, Mr. Peavy.
Mr. Gildersleeve, well.
Hello, Peavy.
Out for a little constitutional, you two?
No, we've just come from the movie.
Oh.
Mrs. Ransom thought she'd like a hot chocolate.
It's so cold out.
It is a little chilly. I'll just warm it up a little. Won't take a minute. Something for you, Mr. Gildersleeve?
No thanks, Peavy. Nothing.
Well, it's not like you, Throckmorton. You sure?
And... Peavy, if you should see Judge Hooker, I'd be grateful if you didn't mention to him that you saw me this evening or that I went to the movies.
Just as you say, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Well, Throckmorton, what possible difference could it make to Horace?
Oh, none. I'd just rather he didn't know, that's all.
What's wrong, honey? You don't seem like yourself tonight.
Nothing.
You haven't seemed like yourself all evening, except when you fell asleep there. And that was only for a minute.
Well, I feel I've been a bad boy this evening, that's all.
Why ever should you?
Because, Leela, there were some things I promised myself I was going to do. I was going to help Leroy, and I didn't. And I was going to write to some people, the Alexander Hamilton Institute.
Yeah, there you are, Mrs. Ransom.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Peavy.
It's hot. Watch out. And so you folks went to the movies, eh? How was the picture?
Oh, just wonderful.
So.
I don't get to go to many movies myself. Mrs. Peavy likes to go occasionally, but I have to work late here.
Peavy, you don't know how lucky you are.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yes, you are, Peavy. You're one of the luckiest men I know. You know what you want out of life, and you get it. You're a real success.
Much obliged, but
And another thing where you're lucky, you're married.
I could answer that, too.
Certainly, you don't have a lot of temptations to keep you from doing what you should be doing.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that either.
Throckmorton, I just don't understand what you're talking about.
You wouldn't understand if I told you, Leela. This has to do with life.
Oh?
Yeah, drink your chocolate.
Men are so strange sometimes.
What I mean to say, Peavy, is, well, confound it, here you are working till 11 o'clock at night. You stick to things. You get them done. You have willpower.
Well, Mr. Gildersleeve, I'll tell you a little about that. You might not think it, but it used to be I had a lot of trouble with my willpower. In fact, I was this way and that about things. Just couldn't seem to make up my mind. Then one summer, Mrs. Peavy and I took a little trip.
Well, what's that got to do with willpower?
Well, I'm coming to that. We took a trip to Chautauqua. You know, they have a sort of a camp meeting there with lectures and so on. There's one fella, he's quite a talker. Big, tall fella, I remember, with black hair and a gold tooth. His lecture was about willpower.
Well, what did he have to say about it?
Well, it was his theory that if you believe you can do a thing, you can do it. That's what he said. If you believe it hard enough, you can do it. Got him there.
Maybe.
I'll never forget that fella. He stood up there and sort of flung his arms around when he talked, and his eyes were black, and they seemed to bore right through you.
Yeah?
I remember the words he said when he was winding up. He banged on the desk, and he shouted, "I am the captain of my fate and my unconquerable soul." He looked at me when he said it.
And from then on, your willpower was okay?
Well, not exactly. I've always suspected that Mrs. Peavy thought the fellow was looking at her. Because if there was ever a woman with an unconquerable soul... Keeps me on the beam, though.
Yeah, but it's Mrs. Peavy's willpower.
Do you think I'd be down here working till 11 o'clock at night if I had my way about it?
Why, you're no better than the rest of us, Peavy.
You say what?
By George, you're all right. Have a hot chocolate on me.
You feeling better now, Throckmorton?
Oh, great. You want to know something, Peavy? That hooker, the sanctimonious old goat, he's the biggest faker in this town.
Well, now, you may be right.
Come along, Leela. Good night, Peavy.
The Great Gildersleeve will be with us again in just a few moments. One of the pleasant ways I like to spend an evening at home is to relax in a big easy chair with a good book to read and a big bowl full of popcorn to eat. Now, if anyone in your family likes popcorn as much as I do, here's a simple recipe you'll surely want to try. While the kernels of corn are popping away, melt some flavor-fresh parquet margarine in a saucepan. Pour the popcorn into a big bowl, season with salt, and then drench with melted parquet. Good? Man, there's a way to really enjoy popcorn, thanks to parquet's fine, fresh flavor. And, of course, I expect you all know that parquet is a favorite spread for bread, preferred by millions because it tastes so good. So for a flavor that's still unmatched, buy delicious, economical parquet, P-A-R-K-A-Y, parquet margarine, made by Kraft.
Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. My little niece Marjorie wants to say something.
Well, it's about the Junior Red Cross. That's the American Red Cross for students in high school and elementary school.
Yes, fine organization.
Well, the Junior Red Cross does a lot of important work. During the war, we contributed millions of useful things the soldiers asked for. And now we're working to collect clothes for the orphan children in Greece and school equipment for Yugoslav and Polish children. We really do lots of good things. Don't you think all school children should join it?
I do indeed, my dear. I think you presented it very nicely, too. And I hope all the children listening will join the Junior Red Cross. Good night, everybody. Goodbye.
The Great Gildersleeve is played by Harold Peary. It is written by John Whedon and Sam Moore. The music is by Jack Meekin. This is John Lang speaking for the Kraft Foods Company and inviting you to listen in again next week for the further adventures of the Great Gildersleeve. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
78 years ago, November 4th, 1945, The Great Gildersleeve, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Up next, the CBS Radio Workshop.
Daily, the broadcasts of Radio Free Europe and Radio Free Asia strike through the Iron Curtain, bringing the truth about the free world to the captive peoples behind it. Help send a message by giving to the 1952 Crusade for Freedom.
CBS made an attempt to keep some semblance of creativity going on in the radio realm with their revival of the CBS Radio Workshop. It was originally the Columbia Workshop back in the 1940s. This episode of the program was entitled Colloquy Four, the Joe Miller Joke Book, and it has to do with corny jokes, don't you know?
From Hollywood, the CBS Radio Workshop.
A funny thing happened to me on the way to the studio. I met a woman who sleeps with cats.
A woman who sleeps with cats?
Yeah, Mrs. Cat.
CBS Radio presents the CBS Radio Workshop, dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. This afternoon, the workshop examines another little understood aspect of man's behavior, humor, in Colloquy Four, the Joe Miller Joke Book, produced in Hollywood by William N. Robeson and conducted by Dr. Frank C. Baxter, professor of English literature at the University of Southern California. Dr. Baxter.
If you fear that your radio is receiving two programs simultaneously here, one of very old jokes and the other a talk on literature, then don't touch the dial. Believe me, this is all one program. Now, my own interest in the ancient wheeze is a scholarly one, stemming from the fact that jokes have always had a very real part in literature, at least as long as we have the spoken word. Moreover, there's always been a heartening feeling of immediacy about jokes, not only because so many are topical, but because in one way or another, we all use jokes with gratifying regularity. Some of us tell a joke to fortify a point we wish to make, to entertain, to enhance ourselves, thus in the opinion of others. Or perhaps we tell them for the laudatory purpose of relieving the tedium of some dull occasion. Now, I can best show you what I mean by bringing you a few examples, perhaps, of a classic joke, a classic teller, and a typical occasion. Let's start with a man who's almost a semi-pro in the field, the after-dinner speaker.
Friends, put away your watches. I'm not going to talk for an hour. In fact, the brevity of my remarks reminds me of what Abe Lincoln once said when his tailor suggested maybe Lincoln's legs were too long. No, Sam, the president said. I reckon they're just long enough. They reach the ground, don't they?
And all of us have met this next fellow, the self-appointed life of the party.
Hey, you heard the latest story about the farmer's daughter? Well, the farmer did, and now she can never darken his door again.
Even learned men with professional degrees use jokes tellingly. As, for example, now, the glib and successful trial lawyer.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I assure you I'm implying no criticism of my worthy opponent who found it necessary to address you for 2 hours and a half. But he did put me in mind of an old farmer they say Andrew Jackson came across one day. It seems the farmer was feeding his mule one piece of straw at a time. Neighbor, old Hickory finally said, feeding your mule that way, isn't that going to take a long time? Well, General, the rustic said slowly, reckon it will. But what's time to a stupid old jackass?
Yes. And let's not overlook the determinedly cheerful wife who feels she has to greet her husband gaily when he returns from a grueling day at the office.
Now, Henry, just lie back there and relax while I tell you. I heard the funniest story today.
Okay.
Do you know what one merry-go-round horse said to the other merry-go-round horse, Henry?
Yeah. Let's get off this merry-go-round and get married. I'm sick and tired of going around with you.
Oh.
And finally, the man whose living depends on telling jokes, the comedian.
Hey, buddy, do you know why cream costs more than milk?
No, tell me, my boy. Why does cream cost more than milk?
Because, stupid, it's harder for the cows to sit on those tiny little bottles.
And there ends our illustration. Now, admittedly, these were old jokes. But if you make the common error of classifying them as Joe Miller's, you're wrong. They're much older. Every one of those jokes, in one form or another, was already old before Joe Miller was born.
Oh, Professor, are you trying to tell us that there actually was a Joe Miller?
Yes. Although the records are unclear as to the year of his birth, we do know that he died in London in 1738.
Oh, I get it. Joe Miller lived. It's his jokes that died.
Oh, on the contrary, Joe Miller died. His jokes live on forever.
But I'd always heard Joe Miller was, sort of a myth, an excuse for a bum joke.
No, Miller was an actual person. But oddly enough, not only did Joe Miller never utter a joke himself, the book bearing his name was published more than a year after he died.
Oh, come on. You know, I think Joe Miller's still alive, and he's on my payroll as a writer under an assumed name. He's my brother-in-law. Dr. Baxter, you made some pretty fantastic allegations. Are you able to prove any part of them?
Well, yes, Counselor. It happens that I have with me several monographs written by Joe Miller's own contemporaries.
In a court of law, Doctor, that would be inadmissible as evidence. It's hearsay. Out and out hearsay. However, since you claim he's dead, acceptable proof would be the corpus itself.
Now, that's pretty ridiculous, isn't it? Even for a lawyer?
It isn't quite as impossible as it might at first seem.
Oh, now what sort of mumbo-jumbo is that? Either you can produce Joe Miller or you cannot.
You know, I don't see why I shouldn't try to produce him in this Bridie Murphy age of supersonic animation, automation, mechanical brains, technology more baffling than Merlin. Even though I do not pretend myself to be a pure scientist, merely a sometime student, this cause is a worthy one, and the end, if I succeed in materializing Joe Miller, merits the means. And the means are never very far away these days. Now, here beside me, I just happen to have a mammoth mechanical brain. I insert this punch card in it. I depress button A, so. I throw the switch marked go, go, go. And behold, we get...
Joe Miller here. Can you read me?
Yes, Joe. We read you 5 by 5. This is Dr. Frank Baxter of the University of Southern California.
Ah, yes, Doctor. Is there some service I'm able to perform for you? Some forgotten speech of Will Shakespeare's or Ben Jonson, perchance?
No, Joe, not today. But right now, I'd like you to drop down here. It is down, isn't it, Joe?
There it is.
Good. Well, then, would you drop down for a few moments? Provide the answers to the questions I have for you?
Well, so be it, good doctor. Can you direct me to your meeting place?
Well, now, let's see. Let me focus. Yes. Now, go past that first thunderhead on the left. Turn sharp at that fluffy gathering of cumulus, and then slide down the slightly tarnished rainbow. Straight ahead.
Ah, yes, friend Baxter. I see it now. Roger, Wilco, and out.
Joe Miller.
I don't know.
Greetings, good friends. And which of you chances to be the usher in literature, Dr. Baxter?
I'm the Dominie, Joe. I want you to know how much I appreciate this cooperation of yours.
The least I can do for a fellow student and player. Now, how may I serve you?
Would you just tell my friends here who you are, what you were, what connections, if any, you had with that famous book entitled Joe Miller's Jests?
Oh, Joe Miller's Jests. The pox on it and the fulsome knaves who foisted it upon a half-witted world. I bite my thumb at them, sir.
We'll stipulate the pox, Miller, but let's get to the testimony. The professor here alleges you never wrote a joke.
Aye, sir, nor never spake one. You see, good friends, I was a leading tragedian in London theatres, and a splendid one, if I say so myself, which I gladly do. I was a leading tragedian and not a comic clown. At the time in London, we had a self-styled critic of the drama, a suet head, one John Motley. Motley was an habitué of a tavern I frequented, which was the gathering place for all the mountebanks and roisterers from the theatres royal of Covent Garden and Drury Lane. John Gay, he who wrote The Beggar's Opera, among other things. Mr. Professor Lacey, all of them, the actors, the writers of my day.
This was that famous public house on Portsmouth Street?
Aye, friend Dominic. Well, to get on, this knave, this Motley, had a good thing going for him which profited him much, although it was equally abrim with chicanery.
You mean he had a racket?
He invented the rackets, this varlet. Would an actor buy Motley all the ale and sack he could hold, Motley in turn would publish glowing notices on the players' performances. A trap into which I would not fall.
Good for you, Mr. Miller.
Thanks, madam. And here, perhaps, it is best I explain that my chiefest misfortune was the maid I had wed, my wife. Comely, but a complete shrew. So perhaps you can understand that after an evening's performance I would repair to the tavern, spurning Motley and his noisome companions, and sit alone at the table the Boniface reserved for me exclusively, dreading the hour when I must return to my home and Dame Miller.
So all right already. Then what happened?
Well, after my constant rebuffs to buy his good opinion, Motley became so enraged he determined he would shame me or ruin my repute as a leading tragedian. So, one day when he came upon an ancient jest, so creaky of the joint it was repulsive, he determined his chance to destroy me had come. He waited until every
Friends, imbibers, and countrymen, lend me your ears. I have a jest to tell you. A rib tickler just told me about that ever-popular tragedian, none other than Joe Miller. Joe Miller? Here is the jape as Miller told it to me. A man asked his neighbor, but late married to a widow, how he agreed with his wife. Marvelous well, the neighbor replied, when I am merry, she is merry. When I am sad, she is sad. But when I go out, I am merry to go from her. And when I return, she is sad to see me.
Thus, instead of being greeted with groans and catcalls, Motley was filled with amaze to find he had evoked gales of leg-slapping laughter. Bitter and baffled, he managed to get aside John Gay and beseeched him to explain this unexpected outburst of mirth. Holding his sides, Gay managed his explanation.
Oh, friend Motley, don't you see? It isn't a horrid jest. What makes it comical is that a vinegar visage like that henpecked Miller should tell it. Aye, Motley, that's what makes it funny. Joe Miller telling any joke.
And there I was, hoist by Motley's own petard.
They didn't blame you for the bad joke, Mr. Miller?
Nay, madam, to the contrary. They found that to ascribe a jest to me was better insurance than had it been written by Lloyd's Coffee House. So from that night on, all ancient japes told in the city were laid at my door. But Motley, at first deflated, finally wreaked his revenge on me.
How did he do that, Joe?
So identified did I become with jests and jibes that my very presence in a play would set an audience to convulsions. And since I was a tragedian, soon no theatrical manager in London would give me employ. I died not too long after, a broken man.
Well, granting all that, you still haven't explained that book bearing your name.
Aye, I come now to that, sirrah. Upon my demise, one Thaddeus Reed, a shrewd publisher of folios, sought out Motley and proposed he collect the deadliest of the jokes being told and publish them as Joe Miller's. Motley refused to have anything to do with the publication which might perpetuate my name until Reed tempted him with visions of heady profits.
Motley, lend ear to me. There is a fortune in the book of jests.
I will not be associated with Joe Miller, that penurious, unfriendly, untalented...
Not for, say, £100.
Not for £1,000. How much, friend Reed? From a book of jokes?
I know not, except the rewards are limitless. Recall you Miles Coverdale's Bible, published in 1535.
Oh, yes?
Coverdale obtained the funds to publish the Bible by issuing a collection of jokes 9 years earlier. The one yclept 100 Merry Tales. And a century ago, in 1630, the court jester Archie Armstrong published his book, and both volumes still are in good demand at the stalls. Well, John, will you join me in this enterprise?
Aye, but on one condition. All London knows of my distaste for Joe Miller, and I do not wish to be made a laughingstock. I shall set down these jokes, but not under my own name.
We shall create a pseudonym for the acknowledged editor.
Excellent, John.
And there you have the entire sordid story of Joe Miller's Guests, or the Wits Vademecum, edited by Elijah Jenkins, Esquire, and published by T. Reed, Anno Domini 1739.
No, Joe, that was a story well told indeed.
Thank you, Dr. Baxter, one and all. And now my duty has been discharged. I must be going, forsooth.
How forsooth are you going, Joe?
A plague on you, sir. A pox and a plague on all hollow heads who practice what never did I preach. Milady, esteemed gentlemen, it is past the time when I must return. Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Joe, wait. I feel I should repay you somehow for all the trouble to which we put you.
Hey, he's gone. Just vanished. Well, can you blame even him after that gosh-awful pun of yours? How forsooth are you going?
True, the pun is the lowest form of wit.
Well, perhaps. Certainly Shakespeare used many puns. The great John Milton even had Satan make them.
Puns are the basis of a lot of good humor. Like the joke I opened up with. You all laughed at it. The one about Mrs. Katz.
Well, that wasn't a bad joke. Yet there's another, perhaps more acceptable version if you'd care to hear it.
Yeah, I like that.
Very well, then. May I ask our joke demonstrators for version 13B of the Mrs. Katz joke?
I never thought I'd get here. I was just attacked by a man-eating rabbit. A man-eating rabbit? Yeah, I was in a restaurant and a man-eating rabbit threw a punch at me.
That was pretty good, Doctor. But, was it original?
Heaven forbid. This, like most jokes, is what is technically known as a switcheroo. Now, let me show you how this is done historically. Joe Miller's joke number 99, please.
A lady questioned about her age affirmed she was 40 and called upon a gentleman for his opinion. I do not doubt it, madam, replied he, because have I not heard you say so the last 10 years?
Now, let's see where Mr. Motley got it to include in the Joe Miller jests. Let's have the parallel joke from Armstrong's book, published 1630, please.
A court lady had dinner and, speaking of her age, said she was 40. One gallant, on hearing this, whispered to his companion, I have not the faith to disbelieve her, for I've heard her say so any time these 10 years.
That's no switch, Doctor. That's out-and-out stealing. Even the numbers 40 and 10.
Yes, but the theft was Armstrong's, because that joke, the joke he took his joke from, was current back in Latin times and Roman times and Cicero's day, and it went like this.
O noble Cicero, Fabia Dolabella saith she is but 30 summers. Would this be true?
It must be true, for I have heard it these last 20 years.
Are there other examples, Doctor?
Yes, come on, Professor. I've got my pencil and notebook all ready, but they've got to be better than that.
Oh, there are dozens of examples, hundreds. Some I can't even quote because of the robustness of Elizabethan humor, and others which today are interesting, not for their shimmering wit, but only to scholars who seek sources. There's several jokes appearing in The 100 Merry Tales, printed in 1500. That's a book that Shakespeare knew and referred to, by the way. The 100 Merry Tales of 1500, there are jokes there, as well as in Archie Armstrong and Joe Miller, all similar, if not the same, and few of them are funny today.
Well, if they were funny once, Doctor, why aren't they today?
Let me give you one final example. Now, here's another joke, just as it appears in Armstrong's 17th century book.
Two Dutchmen, one very tall, the other of exceeding low stature, were walking together. A pleasant gentleman, seeing them, said to his friend, Yonder go High Germany and the Low Countries.
You call that a joke, Doctor?
Yes, at one time it was a joke, and a good joke, and it enjoyed great vogue. But now, using it as a springboard, let's take a much more recent version, which dates back only a few years, when the American theater man Marcus Lowe and the producer Lee Shubert were familiar figures on Broadway. Now, Marcus Lowe and Lee Shubert happened to pass one day, and this was their greeting.
Hi, Lee. Hi, Lowe.
So you see that Will Shakespeare was right when he wrote in Love's Labour's Lost, a jest's prosperity lies in the ear of him who hears it, never in the tongue of him who makes it.
Yes, Doctor, but you're quoting Shakespeare, of course. Haven't you a theory of your own about what's funny and why?
Well, as a matter of fact, I have a lot of theories. This is a dangerous business. Now, if one of you will be good enough to move that chopping block a little closer, I'll loosen my collar and lay my neck on the block.
Okay, Professor. Let's not keep a frantic world in suspenders waiting for it. Let's have it.
Have you given your theory a name, Doctor?
Well, I suppose so. It seems to me, by the way, that when we laugh, most of the time we laugh at someone who is doing something we'd like to do. We're all so inhibited and ruled and regulated by laws that whenever we see any person getting off second base safely, doing something that we'd like to do and can't, we acknowledge with a warm satisfaction of laughter the existence of one of our fellows who for a moment gets free. We say often to ourselves, I wish I'd said that. I wish I had done that. Or I wish I'd seen that. You might call this the I wish I theory.
I wish I. Well, but Doctor, that's pretty much a generality, isn't it?
Yes, of course. No one theory explains all jokes. But, to be specific, why doesn't one of you tell his favorite joke to the others and see if they think it's funny?
Oh, we're not professionals. Why not let the comedian tell one of his?
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay. Let's take this one. The scene is an asylum. An inmate is looking over the wall, watching the gardener work. Finally, he says, "Psst, hey, buddy, what are you doing?" The gardener says, "Why, I'm putting fertilizer on the strawberries." The other guy screams, "How do you like that? I put cream on mine, and they call me crazy."
I don't think that's funny. I think it was true.
Well, applying Dr. Baxter's I wish I theory, I wish I hadn't heard it. You don't know what's funny and what isn't.
Well, let's see if we do or not. I'll tell one I know knocks him in the aisles. It seems a farmer and his daughter were in the farmer's car driving back home with the money they'd just gotten in town selling their eggs. Well, suddenly the farmer spied two armed bandits approaching, so he whispered to his daughter, "Mary, quick, stick that money in your mouth and hide it." Well, the girl did as she was told, and the hold-up men couldn't find the money, which made them so sore they kicked them out and took the car. Well, once he was sure they were safe, the farmer said, "I guess we was lucky, all right. But if your ma had been along, we could have saved the car, too."
Gentlemen, can't we have some order here? Gentlemen, please, some decorum, if you will. Gentlemen, please.
Dr. Baxter, could I speak with you a moment, good professor?
Why, Joe Miller, back again. What brings you back, Joe?
I heard this idiotic argument, and I came back to assure you it was none of my doing, sir.
Of course it isn't, but I'm glad you're back. You left before I could ask you to dine with me.
Well, I really shouldn't, you know. Hate traveling after dark, but, well, I shall make an exception, good doctor. Been so deuced long since I've had any solid food, and, what shall the menu be?
Well, now, how would a steak this thick, strike you?
Perfection itself, but bread.
Let's see. Do go. Then perhaps a salad of tossed California greens?
Oh, the very words fairly titillate the gastric juices. And what shall we have with the coffee, then?
Why, anything you choose, Joe.
Would you have strawberries, Doctor?
You have all the strawberries your heart desires.
Oh, not for me, good friend. Oh, strawberries for you.
Why, Joe? Why strawberries for me?
Because I want to see what you put on your strawberries.
Well, that's it, good friends. Joe Miller's jests, or the wits vade mecum. Oh, may Joe and his jests both leave us and rest in peace.
You've been listening to the CBS Radio Workshop's production of Colloquy Four, the Joe Miller Joke Book, with Dr. Frank C. Baxter, professor of English literature at the University of Southern California. Colloquy Four was written, directed in Hollywood by Paul Franklin. Included in the cast were Virginia Gregg, Joe Kearns, Peter Leeds, Ben Wright, Dawes Butler, Howard McNear, Jay Novello, and Joe Forte. Sound effects by Gus Bays.
And from 67 years ago, November 3rd, 1956, the CBS Radio Workshop, Colloquy 4, the Joe Miller Joke Book, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll head to Pine Ridge, Arkansas in just a moment.
There's a price tag on almost everything. Whether you drive a shiny new 1952 model or a pre-war jalopy, you had to pay the price. And when you're driving that car, remember that speed also has its price. The price tag on speed violations last year was 15,000 killed and 500,000 injured. This year, thousands of lives can be saved if you and millions of other motorists come to the sober realization that speed is the biggest killer on the highways and resolve to slow down before you or someone else pays the price that must be paid for it. You can do your part by keeping within speed limits. At all times, drive as though your life depends on it. It does.
Well, we'll have crime tomorrow on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Dick Calmer as Boston Blackie. We'll have an episode of Dangerous Assignment starring Brian Dunleavy. We'll have The Lineup starring Bill Johnstone and an episode of The Whistler. That's all coming up on our Sunday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Right now, let's head to Pine Ridge, Arkansas. And speaking of crime, let's see what's going on with Lum and Abner in this episode. Crime? Yes, by golly, it would be a crime. This is from 82 years ago, November 4th, 1941.
The makers of Alka-Seltzer bring you Lum and Abner. Folks, this week, and this week only, you have a chance to get a large-size picture of Lum and Abner absolutely free. Now, the makers of Alka-Seltzer will send you one of these big, fine autographed pictures, free and postpaid. All you have to do is to write to this radio station and ask for it. Now, this is no ordinary picture. It's one you'll want to frame and to show to your friends. For not only does it show how Lum and Abner look in character, but also how they appear in real life. It's just the kind of picture you've always wanted of your old Pine Ridge friends. And think of it, it's yours, absolutely free. You just send your name and address, a postcard will do, to Lum and Abner in care of the station to which you're now listening. But say, will you let me give you a word of friendly warning? The supply of these pictures is limited, and this offer will be made only this week. So if I were you, I'd write today. Sit down right now while you're still thinking about it, and write your name and address on a penny postcard or in a brief letter, and send it to Lum and Abner in care of this station. Then your free autographed picture of your old radio friends will be sent to you just as quickly as possible. Don't delay and be sorry. Send for yours today before it's too late. And now, let's see what's going on down in Pine Ridge. When the prince called on Lum yesterday to talk him into aiding the prince and the squire in their healing racket, he discovered that Lum had paid $500 instead of $100 for his services, and that Squire had kept the difference. With murder in his eye, the prince rushed out to take care of his double-crossing friend, Squire Skimp. As we look in on the little community today, we find Lum and Abner in their Jot-'em-Down store, still waiting to hear the results of the affair. Listen.
Yeah, Granny, I can't wait to hear how the prince and the squire come out.
Well, as mad as the prince was when he found out Squire's trying to beat him out of $400, I wouldn't be surprised to hear a shooting taking place, Lum.
Oh, he was mad when he left out of here. And I don't blame him.
No.
I don't mind losing the $500 they charged me to put on that fake healing of my broke leg, but I do hate to see that Squire Skimp get any of it.
Well, a body'd think he'd at least give the prince half of it. But according to the prince, Squire told him you just paying $100.
Yeah, that's Squire Skimp. Granny, there just ain't no one thing that feller wouldn't do. He ought to be locked up in the penitentiary and have him throw the key away.
Well, I hope this learns you a lesson not to have no more dealings with him, Lum.
Oh, it has. I wouldn't believe him on oath. truth ain't in him.
As many times as he's tried to skin us out of money, we ought to know better by now.
Well, the best thing to do is just not to have no more dealings with him.
Or to run him out of the store every time he comes in here.
Yeah.
Very odd is him trying to cheat old Grandma Masters out of $300.
Well, him and that prince both will get what's coming to them. You just watch what I tell you. Like that old lettered saying of mine, chickens always come home to roost.
Yeah, Huh?
I say chickens always come home to roost.
Did they get some of Grandma Master's chickens, too?
Grandma Master's chickens?
Well, it's about 4 miles over to her place from Squire's house.
What's that got to do with it?
Well, she's expecting them to stay over at Squire's of a daytime and come over to her place to roost of a night. I don't believe it'll work, Lum. Chickens walk awful slow.
Abner, when I said chickens come home to roost,
Well,
I
it'll
mean...
take 'em all day to get over there in time to roost. And then they won't no more than get set comfort on the perch before they'll have to jump down and head back to Squire's in order to be there by daylight.
Yeah, for goodness sakes, Abner.
Them chickens ain't gonna do neither one of 'em no good. Just walk the fat off theirselves for nothing. And you know a hen ain't gonna lay an egg while she's walking. They gotta sit down and concentrate. I don't see why Grandma don't just slip out there and shut the door when they get over there tonight.
Abner, they don't walk back and forth, so
Well,
you
a
get
chicken can't fly that far, Lum.
Of course not.
Let's see. They ain't walking and they ain't flying. What's the answer now?
Abner, when I say chickens always come home to roost, I ain't talking about the kind of chickens you are.
Oh, you mean them turkins? Them half chickens and half turkeys that Grandma's been raising?
No, what I mean, all the things Squire Skimp did will come back to him, be laid right on his own doorstep. His chickens will come home to roost.
Well, he's got a hen house over there.
I know he has.
Well, why they done laying on the doorstep then? Why don't they get up there in the nest where they belong?
For goodness sake.
Front steps or back steps?
I don't know, Abner.
Be a lot handier on the back steps, closer to the kitchen.
Oh, swan to goodness. I believe that imagination of yours gets worse all the time. I started out to take... Wait a minute. If he ain't got a nerve...
Who?
Squire Skimp.
Well, it's his own business where he keeps them, Lum. I thought they's Grandma Master's chickens there when he
I mean, he's coming up on the porch out there. You'd think after us catching on to how crooked he is, he'd be ashamed to come over here.
Well, I'll be that blame.
Yeah, he's coming in. Now, Grannies, we ought to just ignore him. Don't even speak to him. Let him know he ain't welcome in here.
Well, I think we ought to tell him what we think of him.
No, don't say nothing. Just look at his face. Prince must have beat the everlasting daylights out of him.
Mind out.
Make out like you don't even see him.
No.
Lum, Abner, gentlemen, I know exactly how you must feel, and I don't blame you. I stand before you with deep humility, a humble man. I don't ask forgiveness. I only ask that you suspend judgment until you've given me a chance to explain.
What happened to your face?
Oh, a very unfortunate accident yesterday afternoon, Abner. I fell down the steps.
Did you trip over a chicken?
No, the steps in the house, Abner.
Oh, I thought that Lum meant the steps outside.
What's that, Abner?
Nothing. Go ahead, Squire.
Oh, thank you, Lum. As I said before, I've come to you to be judged. I know how you must feel towards me because of certain questionable actions that I've been more or less connected with for the past several days. But even though my face is bruised, the pain I'm suffering physically is nothing in comparison with the mental pain I've endured these last few days, when I was being forced to act as I did towards my good friends here in Pine Ridge. But that's all over now, men. I can speak freely, now that I've cast aside the shackles that bound me to the will of that despicable criminal who has cast a blight upon our little community.
You mean the prince?
Shut up, Abner. Let him talk.
Yes, at last I reached the point where I refuse to be his tool any longer. And at great danger to myself, I ran him out of town. I'm happy to say we are now rid of him. No longer will he be allowed to prey on the innocent people of our little city on the pretense of healing broken bones.
I don't believe I understand all this, Squire.
Of course you don't, Abner, and I don't blame you. In fact, I'm going to have a difficult time making all my good friends understand the true facts of the case. But as soon as I discovered he was a crook, right...
You mean you never knowed he was a crook when you sent for him?
Why, of course not, of course not. When I knew Louis, or the prince, he was a legitimate bone healer. But evidently since then he's fallen into the unfortunate ways of the criminal.
Yeah.
But when I found it out after the demonstration the other night, it was too late. And by holding a gun to my head and threatening my life, he forced me to carry out his nefarious plans to extort money from our good citizens. Oh, the mental tortures I've suffered. No one will ever know.
Well, what about me giving you that $500 and you telling the prince you own it?
Oh, the mental tortures I've suffered. I don't even like to talk about it.
No, I guess not.
Several times I refused to carry out his fiendish plans, but he threatened to expose your fake broken leg, Lum. So naturally I had to carry on to protect my good friend.
Did he sure enough do that?
Yes, it evolved to the point that I had to either protect the good citizens of this community or expose you, my best friend. I weighed one against the other, Lum, and decided that you meant more to me than all the rest of the whole bunch combined.
Grannies, I'm proud to hear it, Squire. I never knowed we was so close.
What about that $100 check from the insurance company that you cashed and kept the money for?
Yeah, that money ought to be sent back to them, Squire.
Yes, the prince forced me to keep that too long, but I'm going to send it back to the company tomorrow.
Well, why don't you just bring it over here and let me send it back to them, and I'll write them a letter and explain the whole thing to them.
Why, yes, if you prefer to handle it that way, Lum, yes, I'll bring it over tomorrow.
Well, good. Now, what about the money you collected from Miss Davis and that feller over at Odin for the prince to heal him?
Well, unfortunately, when I ran the prince out of town, he still had that money on him, and I didn't know it. However, I plan to track him down to the ends of the earth, Lum, and get that money back and return it to those good people.
Granny, you better get started tracking him then before he gets too big a head start on you.
Yes, I'm going to do that. In fact, I'd better be going right now. I have to see a man about some bloodhounds right now. I'll see you later. And, Lum, I hope you'll try to explain this to all my good friends.
Yeah, I will, Squire. I'll try to get them not to misjudge you now.
Thank you, Lum. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good day.
Yeah, so long, Squire. It looks like we had old Squire down wrong after all, Abner. A body ought to hear both sides of a story before he judges somebody like that.
Yeah, maybe so, maybe so. Oh, there's Cedric coming in there.
Yeah, just noticed Cedric never even spoke to Squire whenever he passed him out there.
Well, nobody in town speaking to him. You've been telling everybody what a crook Squire is.
Yeah, I ought to be ashamed of myself. I'll have to straighten him out on that. Come in, Cedric.
Yeah, howdy, Cedric.
Howdy. I got a letter here for you, Mr. Lum.
A letter?
Yes, Mom. Mr. Dick Huddleston told me to hand it to you. It's from Pine Ridge, too.
Well, what's somebody in Pine Ridge doing writing me a letter?
I don't know. His mail last night, Mr. Dick said.
Looks like Paul Warner's handwriting.
Yeah, just like that, Paul. He's too dad blame lazy to walk over here, so he just writ you a letter.
Well, I'll be dad blame.
Who's it from, Paul?
Listen to this. Dear Uncle. Must be from the prince. That's what he always called me.
Well, what's that varmint wanting now?
Next time you see Squire, you'll know what happens to mugs that double-cross the prince. Enclosed is $150, which the dame and the guy kicked in for the bone-healing gag. Give it back to them with my compliments. I made the Squire fork it over so I could send it back. I'm keeping your 500 slugs, Uncle, as a lesson not to ever get mixed up with a dishonest crook like Skimp. Signed, Louis the Prince.
Well, I'll be dad blamed.
You see, that's what I say, Abner. You oughtn't to judge a feller till you've heard both sides of the story.
How many of you folks would like a free picture of Lum and Abner? Haven't you often wondered as you've sat there in your home listening to these visits with Lum and Abner, just what these two lovable old cronies down in Pine Ridge really look like? Well, now you can find out. Yes, the makers of Alka-Seltzer will send each and every one of you listeners a special, large-sized, autographed picture of Lum and Abner absolutely free and postpaid. Nothing to buy. It costs you absolutely nothing. You just send your name and address on a penny postcard to Lum and Abner in care of this radio station. This picture's a large 8 by 10-inch size, which will look mighty attractive framed and placed near your radio. When you see it, you'll be glad you sent for it, because it shows how Lum and Abner look in character and also what they look like in real life. Besides, it's autographed and it's yours, free for the asking. Now, you can't buy one of these new Lum and Abner pictures at any price, but you can get one absolutely free as a gift from the makers of Alka-Seltzer. Remember, this offer will be made for a limited time only, so don't wait. Send your name and address to Lum and Abner in care of this radio station right away. By all means, don't put it off. Send a postcard for your free picture today before it's too late.
But it is too late. That offer expired some 80 years ago. November 4th, 1941, 82 years ago, Lum and Abner, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage, classicradio.stream. And visit us tomorrow. Our podcast tomorrow will be crime shows, and that'll be coming up tomorrow with the Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox podcast.